Welcome back to the Federal Retirement Show. I'm your host, Val Majewski with American Benefits Exchange. And as always, appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us, to view our content, listen to our content, whichever way you're doing it. And I appreciate those that are sharing this with others. I have heard recently and just talking to folks, hey, I heard from so-and-so, or my colleague had told me, my federal employee friend had told me I need to listen to this. And there are more and more of you that are viewing the show, watching the show, listening to the show, getting the information. And I really do appreciate it because that is why we did it. And that is why we started this show, is for you, the federal employee that is looking for information regarding your benefits and retirement situation so you can make the best decisions as you go through your working career and into retirement. That's what we do. That's what we specialize in. Hopefully you've gotten that up to this point with over 120 episodes. But if I'm getting into our series that we're currently in, calling it Back to the Basics, really starting from scratch and getting back to some of the fundamentals with some updated content. Today, we're going to be talking about deferred, early, and postponed retirement. So we've gone to the retirement systems. We've talked about FEGLI. We talked about TSP. And now in our Back to the Basics series, we're going to be talking about deferred, early, and postponed retirement. We've been getting a lot of questions about this, especially with the circumstances and the things that were going on with the deferred resignation and some of the agencies offering the VERA or the VSIP, and a lot of things going on about, what happens if I retire early? What happens if this? What happens if that? Now, this is outside of all of that, right? Outside of all the circumstances, what are the things known as deferred retirement, early retirement, and postponed retirement? So let's dive into today's content and talk about these three things in further detail. So first of all, we want to go up to and back to the basic. What is your eligibility for full retirement? Now, we're just talking about the FER system. I do every now and then still run into a CSRS, had talked to a CSRS offset, but most of you that are going to be listening are FERS. So for FERS employees, just a reminder, your eligibility for full retirement benefits. So anytime we talk about deferred, early, or postponed retirement, these are not full retirement scenarios. But what is full retirement? Just so we can go back to the basics on this. You have to satisfy one of these three criteria in order to retire with full benefits. You have to be age 60 with at least 20 years of service, 62 with at least 5 years of service, or have 30 years of service and hit your minimum retirement age. And if you're not familiar with minimum retirement age, it's here on the chart. It's anywhere between age 55 and 57, depending upon your birth year. And we'll come back to minimum retirement age here in a little bit and discuss that. But satisfying one of those three criteria. So if I go back to this, it's 60 with 20, 62 with 5, or 30 years and your minimum retirement age. You can walk away as a FERS retiree now with full benefits. That means it's unreduced pension, immediate pension. You get to keep your FEGLI if you want to. You get to keep your health insurance and ancillary health insurance products if you want to. Those are the benefits of retiring with full benefits. So getting past minimum retirement age, let's go to retirement eligibility for early retirement scenarios, right? So these are the three. We have deferred retirement, we have early retirement, voluntary early retirement, and we have postponed retirement. Now, the first thing, going back to those criteria, deferred retirement, it sounds exactly as it describes, right? You're going to defer retirement, defer your retirement payments, your pension payments, to a future date. Now, how long do you have to wait, and how many years of service or age? What do you need to be eligible for a deferred retirement? So here's the interesting thing. You can technically retire if you have at least 5 years of service and you are any age, right? Full retirement was age 62 with at least 5 years of service. But if you have at least 5 years of service, you can retire at any age. The problem is, if you're not 62, you have to defer your retirement, meaning you cannot collect an immediate pension. You have to defer that retirement pension or those retirement payments until age 62. So understand that you can retire under the deferred retirement, you have 5 years of service and you are any age, but you cannot collect those payments until age 62. Now, there are some ways, if you have at least 20 years of service and you have not yet hit the minimum requirement for full retirement with 20 years, you can defer until age 60, but you're going to face some penalties. So I normally recommend, if you're going to do deferred retirement, and it's only come across my desk a couple times where this was beneficial for somebody, maybe they got the dream job, or they got something that they couldn't refuse, or maybe they're married to somebody who got a job that took them elsewhere, overseas, whatever, and they're no longer going to be employed by the government because they just can't. Then I would say, hey, you have enough years of service. Don't let those go to waste. File for deferred retirement at age 62 and collect something for the time that you spent as a government employee. A lot of times I'm not recommending this, but again, in certain circumstances, it might work out. So 5 years of service, I'll just summarize, and you got to wait until age 62 to collect benefits. You cannot keep your health insurance, FEGLI, or ancillary insurance products like dental or vision. Then there's the MRA plus 10. MRA plus 10. Now, MRA, again, is minimum retirement age between age 55 and 57, depending upon your birth year. This is a way that you can voluntarily retire early under the MRA plus 10 provision and collect an immediate pension. So remember, deferred, you can't collect an immediate pension. You have to defer it until age 62. MRA plus 10 is a way for you to voluntarily retire early and collect an immediate pension if you have hit your minimum retirement age and have at least 10 years of service. So let's say I go back and my minimum retirement age is 57 and I have 15 years of service. Now, if I look at the criteria for full retirement, I don't satisfy any of those, but I have hit my minimum retirement age and I do have at least 10 years of service. So I can, under this provision, retire with an immediate pension. That's the good news. The bad news is that for every year that you retire prior to the age of 62, you're going to see your benefits reduced by 5%. We'll talk about this here in a second. We'll talk about it in a little more detail. So hang on to that thought if you're thinking about that. And then postponed retirement. Postponed retirement is a way that you can do the MRA plus 10 provision, right? You can execute that, but remove the reduction. Remove the reduction because I am now postponing payments. So let's go deferred. Deferred is deferring payments. You're not collecting an immediate pension. MRA plus 10, you are going to collect an immediate pension, but there's a reduction. And then postponed is MRA plus 10 without the reduction. So we'll talk a little bit more about this here in a second. Deferred, we already went into some detail, but let's just go into the retirement pension calculation. We've done this before. And if you're familiar with this, this should be just a refresher, redundancy, but they start with your high 3, take your high 3, multiply that by a factor of 1 or 1.1%, depending upon your age and years of service at retirement. Now, understand that in all of these early retirement scenarios, it is going to be 1%. Deferred, postponed, or MRA plus 10 is going to be 1%. Multiply that by your years of service. So we've got high 3, 1% years of service is going to be the calculation for those that are in this scenario. But for full retirement, folks, you get a little bit of a bump. If you're age 62 or older and have at least 20 years of service, you'll get 1.1% as your factor. But this is just a typical, this is a full benefits retirement calculation. Same is going to be true for deferred pension, right? If you defer it, you're going to get the same calculation. It's just going to be deferred. Those payments will be deferred until age 62. So if you only had 5 years of service and you're making $100,000 at the time that you left, when you file for deferred retirement at age 62, it's going to be 100,000 times 1% times 5. So your pension would be $5,000 a year for the rest of your life starting at age 62. Okay, at least you're going to get something, right? Hopefully you've saved for retirement. You're collecting other retirement income sources as a result, but that 5 years of service, you'll at least get credit for and something for it if you happen to leave before being fully eligible. So that's the first thing. Deferred retirement, simple calculation. What if it's now MRA plus 10? How does this work? Well, again, it's the same thing, same calculation. You're eligible if you hit your minimum retirement age and have at least 10 years of service. Great. We're going to calculate your pension the exact same way. High three times 1% times years of service. That's the calculation. But you're going to see this 5% reduction for every year prior to age 62. So in my example, let's say I was 57 years old, but that's my minimum retirement age, and I have 15 years of service. And let's go back to the $100,000 example. So making $100,000 times 1% times 15 years. Great. That's 15,000. But I'm going to see a reduction of, in this case, 25%. That's 5% for every year prior to age 62. So in this case, that's 5 years. That's 25%. So I thought I was going to get 15,000. I'm going to get 25% less, unfortunately. So just understand this is not something we normally recommend, because I do not want to see any of you get a reduction or a reduced pension. Good news is that pension will be immediate. The good news is also you could still keep your health insurance and other things when it comes to your benefits, but you're going to see a lot less in your pension because of the reduction. That is the MRA plus 10 calculation. Again, not something we normally would recommend. But as I mentioned, then the postponed retirement, what does that look like? That is the MRA plus 10 without a reduction. MRA plus 10 without a reduction. So if you've hit that minimum retirement age, at least 10 years of service. So let's say this example I was showing you, age 57 with 15 years, I'm kind of caught in the middle here. I can satisfy the MRA plus 10, but I do not want to get the reduction. I do not want to accept that 25% subtraction or reduction on my pension. So I'm going to postpone it. I'm going to postpone it. Now, when do I postpone it? Until age 62. I'll start collecting a benefit then. So I will forego getting a reduced pension now to get a full unreduced amount at age 62. That's called postponed retirement. So it's those that are eligible for the MRA plus 10, but do not want the reduction. You're going to be able to postpone it until age 62. Good news is, again, there's no reduction. Bad news is you're going to have to go some years without collecting a benefit. You got to wait till age 62. A good news also is you can still keep the health insurance. Bad news there, you're going to have to wait until you restart your pension at age 62 in order to get those things. So you can re-enroll back into health, dental, vision, life, long-term, all of that stuff. You can go back in there. So just understand that the postponed, it nullifies the reduction, but you have to also delay and postpone getting back into the different benefits that you have. So just reminder for all of that. When it comes to the differences between all three of these, now these are not something we normally recommend. All of these are ways in which you can voluntarily retire early, but there's different requirements. There's different things that you need to satisfy. Unfortunately, if you have not hit your minimum retirement age, your only option is going to be, or if you have not satisfied any of the full retirement requirements or hit your minimum retirement age, your only option is going to be deferred retirement if you want to get something. Once you've hit that minimum retirement age, if you have at least 10 years of service, you have those two choices, MRA plus 10 or postponing in order to avoid the reduction, right? Now, in cases like this, in the postponed section, I did not mention this, but remember, if I go back to the full retirement requirements, one of those eligibility requirements is age 60 with at least 20 years of service. So let's say I was 57 in this example and I had 20 years of service. I don't satisfy the full retirement requirements, so I can then only postpone until age 60. That would avoid my reduction, because now I'd be eligible at age 60 with at least 20 years of service. So that's one way in which I can collect benefits a little earlier, is if I'm MRA with at least 20 years of service and not yet 60 years old. If I postponed it, I can collect at 60 with no reduction rather than wait till 62. So I hope that makes sense. In a lot of cases, again, we don't normally recommend this unless there's extenuating circumstances or other things to consider. But just in general, I would not want to see you have a reduction. I wouldn't want to see you retire and have to wait to collect money. So if you can wait until your first eligibility for full and immediate retirement to collect an immediate and unreduced pension, that's typically what we recommend. That's more of a general blanket statement. Obviously, individual scenarios differ. What's best for you may not be best for the person next to you. So I'm just speaking in general here, very painting with broad strokes, not specific to your situation. But if you do have questions about this, you're considering these things, you're looking into these things. You have again another scenario you want to run by me so you can see if it's beneficial for you. Please reach out to us. Go to our website, federalretirementshow.com, fill out the form, and one of our experts, if it's not me personally, will be reaching out to you to schedule time to go over your benefits and retirement situation. That way you get all the ins and outs, you get the reporting, you make sure you have a full understanding of your situation, as well as get your questions answered, right? I mean, and if it's just um, a redundancy, I should say, if it is just a confirmation of everything that you already knew, then great. Then you heard from an expert, you know everything already, you got confirmation of that. But chances are there will be, a nugget or two or a piece of information that you did not know that we review with you, and you're thankful that you had that review done. So if you do have questions, reach out. We'd be happy to help. If you do like this show, I already mentioned earlier about sharing this with your colleagues, sharing this with the folks that you work with, your manager, your teammates, or if you are the manager, with your folks that you lead. Share it with them. Tell them that they should go watch it. And it's just my opinion. I don't have to force you to do it, but go watch the show, review all the episodes, gather the information, reach out for help. It's extremely beneficial for them. The earlier they can do that, the better. I hear it all the time when I give presentations. Hey, I wish you would have been speaking to us 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it might be, because this information is not regularly given to federal employees. Just at least in general, most agencies I talk to do not have these regular trainings. Also, if you like it personally, make sure you like, subscribe, again, share this on different platforms. That way you'll be notified when new episodes, new content, new things come out. We'll be sure to get that in your hands first thing. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your obedience as a listener, an avid listener to the show. If this is your first time, I really thank you for joining us. Hopefully you go back and view our previous content. As I mentioned, I'll say it one more time, go to our website, fill out the form, get a personal and individual benefits and retirement evaluation, get all of your questions answered, and we'll be in touch. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you in a future episode.